What was my conclusion after studying and researching for 17 years? How did my conclusion change my perception of reality and my perspective? Well, stay tuned. You're about to find out. So strap in, put your helmet on. Let's go. Well, hello, Ex-HOJ community, and to all of you who took time out of your busy day to watch this video. Thank you. I appreciate your curiosity, and I hope everyone is doing well. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I'm Ray, the Ex-HOJ. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. Glad to have you. Well, y'all, just as I suspected, there are a lot of history enthusiasts out there, and especially among the young people. I had some young people inbox me on Facebook, and they said that they enjoyed the history on King James in my last video, and they wanted me to share some more information on King James. So I decided to do that because it ties in with my conclusion. This is some of the history that helped me reach my conclusion of all my studying for those 17 years. Now, this is not all of the history. This is just a piece of the history, because there are many other pieces that contributed to my conclusion. Now, they didn't teach us this history in school, but surprisingly enough, I was talking to my sister the other night, and she was telling me about her granddaughters, my great nieces, and both of them are in the 7th grade, and in their social study class, they've been studying world religions, and she had to do a paper on the comparison of Judaism and Christianity. And they've already studied Greek mythology and Roman mythology. And so they're getting the education in school now. So as I said in the last episode, when I talk about King James, I'm talking about King James as a king, as a monarch, as the leading politician over the British Empire in his time. I'm talking about him as the commander-in-chief of the British military. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about King James. I'm talking about the political leader. Now, when I started studying and researching King James, one of the first things that came to me, of course, was, why does a British king, a British politician, have his own version of a holy book or a Bible? Because Bible is just another English word for the same object, a book. So a book is a Bible and a Bible is a book. It's just two English words for the same object, just like car and automobile. But anyway, that was one of the questions that came to my mind. Why did a British king need his own version of a book? And when I traced it back, I found out that the main reason that King James's Bible even exists goes back to 1534. Now, King James's Bible was published in 1611, But the main reason, or the catalyst, or the foundational reason that allowed him to even make his own Bible, that goes back to 1534 with his uncle, King Henry VIII. What he did, he made a decision that changed the course of history. Now, you've heard the saying that the truth is sometimes stranger than fiction. Well, British political history is strange, and you'll see what I mean. But everything that I'm going to share with you is British political history. But you have to understand that in England, there is no separation of church and state, so they go hand in hand, politics and religion. That's the way they've lived for over 1,200 years. So before 1534, England was a devout Catholic country. And yes, I'm still talking about politics because they go hand in hand. So what happened in 1534 is that King James's uncle, King Henry VIII. Now, mind you, these are King Charles III, the one that's reigning now in England. These are his kinfolk, because he's a descendant of King James. He's a descendant of King Henry VIII. So, King Henry decided to start his own church. Now, why did he decide to start his own church? And this is where the truth gets stranger than fiction. So, King Henry VIII wanted his Holy Father in Rome to annul his marriage so that he could marry his mistress. He wanted to get rid of his wife of 20 years, who, by the way, happened to be his sister-in-law, because he married his sister-in-law after his brother died. And so he wanted to annul the marriage because she had not given him a son yet. She had not given him a boy heir to continue his dynasty. She had given birth to only one child, her daughter, or their daughter, Mary. So he wanted to get rid of her and marry his mistress. And so the Roman Catholic Pope wouldn't give him the annulment. So what King Henry VIII decided to do, he decided to start his own church. Now, what I want you to understand is that what we're talking about the political leader of the country of England starting his own church, or starting the state church, or the crown church, or the royal family's church, whichever way you want to take it. However, this is a political move because, again, politics and religion go hand in hand in the British Empire, and it still does to this day. There's never been any separation of church and state. So King Henry, when he formalized the new Church of England, and most of the European countries in Western Europe, they were all Roman Catholic. And when I say all Roman Catholic, that was the only religion you could practice in those countries. So in England, Roman Catholicism was the only religion that they had practiced for over 1,000 years, almost. Well, in King Henry's time, it was almost 900 years that, they had practiced that religion. And when I say that all of England was Roman Catholic, I mean every subject in the country practiced Roman Catholicism. There was no other religion to practice. So when King Henry decided to break away from the Roman Catholic Church because he couldn't get the Pope to annul his marriage, he started his own church. And it's a government church. It is a crown church. And to bring it even closer to home, or to help you really grasp what I'm saying, what I want you to do is imagine Donald Trump being able to repeal the Establishment Clause in the U.S. Constitution, in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And if he was able to repeal the Free Exercise Clause in the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And then imagine, now that takes away all your freedom of religion right there. But I want you to imagine that Donald Trump starts a government church, a U.S. government church, and he names the church the United States Church of America. And now, in the United States of America, I want you to imagine that this is the only church that you can go to. Because whatever your church is, Church of God in Christ, UHOP, the Supreme Council House of Jacob, it doesn't matter. Just imagine him being able to just make all of that disappear. None of your churches, they will take away all 501c3 status. And just imagine him being able to do all of that. And on top of it, just imagine him that he is now your supreme leader over the church of the United States of America. And every citizen in the United States would have to be a member of the United States Church of America. You would pay your tithes, your offering to the United States Church of America. So I'm just giving you a graphic idea of what King Henry VIII actually did. And this is actually what he did. This was a government church. When King Henry set this all up, I mean, that meant that all the doctrine, all the order of services, all the traditions, the church, holidays and everything, all of that was set up by the government. The government approved all of that. They had to approve it. The church couldn't change anything without the government's approval. So that's how the church, and it was called the Church of England. You can look it up. You can look up anything that I'm saying, because all of this is easily found in history. Just, you can Google it or go to the library and get books on it. So King Henry VIII established the Church of England, the government or the state church. And you look up what a state church is. They still exist today. I mean, even today, King Charles III is the leader, the spiritual leader over the Church of England. And so when King Henry died, his son took over, King Edward, and he took over at 9 years old. Once again, the truth is stranger than fiction. So yes, you had a 9-year-old king the leader of the country, and you had a 9-year-old supreme leader of the church and spiritual leader of the Church of England. But he only lived till he was 15 years old, and he died. And so his sister took over, although he was the youngest in the family, because he was the child of King Henry's third wife. King Henry had 6 wives, and by the way, he executed 2 of them. He had their heads amputated. Now again, the truth is stranger than fiction, but this is England. This is the royal family. When King Henry's daughter became the queen, then she was staunchly Catholic. So she reversed what her dad had done. But she's the one in history known as Bloody Mary. She's known as Bloody Mary simply because a lot of Protestants, she had a lot of them executed. And again, this is the royal family, and these are monarchs of England. But she only reigned for like 5 years. When she died, then her sister took over, and that was Queen Elizabeth I. And Queen Elizabeth's mother is the one that King Henry executed. But when she became queen, she took the country back to Anglicanism, and she reinstated the Act of Supremacy. And the Act of Supremacy made it where every king or queen is the leader of the country, as well as the supreme head or the supreme leader of the Church of England. So another thing is this: King James's mother and Queen Elizabeth was first cousins, and King James's mother was the Queen of Scotland, because that's where King James came from, Scotland. He wasn't born in England. He wasn't raised in England. He came from Scotland. But his mother was the Queen of Scotland, and she and Queen Elizabeth were first cousins. But they always had this, the royal family had always had this thing about the crown. Everybody wanted to be the king or the queen in the family. And you just look at their history, they would even kill each other over that crown. So, and again, we still talking about politics, and we're going toward King James because you want to know why his Bible even exists. So, King James's mother was married to King James's dad, which was Queen Mary's second husband. But she fell in love with another man, and her husband, King James's dad, got killed. And they said that he got killed in an explosion, but they later found out that he had been strangled. And so she was implicated in the plot. So they were going to try her and possibly execute her. So she fled the country. And she fled the country to England. So she went to her cousin, Queen Elizabeth, and just in royal family fashion, her first cousin, put her in prison because she didn't want her trying to take over her reign in England. Now we get to King James. So when King James, as the years passed, because his mother left when he was a baby, so he never really knew his mother. But as he got older, then Queen Elizabeth started writing him, and they started corresponding him. So she let him know that she had his mother in prison, and that she was going to have to do something that he may not approve of, but since he's the next in line of succession, and if he wants his succession to the throne to go smoothly, then he'll have to accept what she has to do. And what she wanted to do, she wanted to execute King James's mother so that she didn't have to worry about her anymore. And so King James, he didn't put up much protest. I mean, even though it was his mother, he didn't put up no protest because he wanted to be the King of England. He was already the King of Scotland, because when his mother left, she abdicated the throne. So he became King of Scotland. He wasn't even 1 year old yet. So, but he had people, regents, that pretty much ruled the country on his behalf. But anyway, now we're at King James. So, showing you how the Church of England was established, and showing you that through history, and you can verify all of it, showing you that through history, through British history, that the government, or the leader of the government, set up this church and then passed down this power and this authority to every monarch afterwards. And so when King James got it, it was the same thing. It was still a government church. It was still a crown church. It was still a royal family's church. And so this allowed him, as king and as the spiritual leader of the Church of England, this allowed him to come up with his own version of a holy book, or, as I said, as a Bible. And so, now, like I said, you would have to study King James and study King James politics. I mean, this was a politician. And when you look at his political history, well, you could look at the political history of any of the monarchs in the British Empire, and all you will find is barbarism and savagery. You'll see all their inhumanity and all the evil that they perpetrated on the world. So in 2025, here we are. Everybody's that's a King James only Bible reader. You're reading the Bible. Well, really, it's a government Bible. It's a British government Bible. If you Google it, it'll tell you that the King James Version Bible was an English version of the Christian Bible. And when they say Christian Bible, they're actually talking about the Latin Vulgate, because the Christianity that you practice comes from the Roman Catholic Church. I'm talking about the Romanized Nicene Christianity that England was practicing. And you learned this in school. This was called the English Reformation, or that was part of the Protestant Reformation. When King James became the king, and King James put out his Bible, the King James Bible was made for the Church of England. Now, I'll say that again. It was made for the Church of England. Now, that Bible was published in 1611. There was no America in 1611. There was no Pentecostal churches in 1611. There was no Baptist churches, no Methodists, no Episcopalians, none of that. The only thing that was in England in 1611 was Anglicanism. That was all you could practice. And so when King James produced his Bible, I mean, this is no different than the Mormons producing their own Bible. They produced their own sacred text for their denomination, for their church. And that's what King James did. He had the Bible published for his church. Nobody else's. It wasn't meant for nobody else's. Not initially. It was just for the Church of England. It had nothing to do with America. It had nothing to do with any other church, any other denomination. This Bible was made for that church. That Bible is a reflection of British culture. That Bible is a reflection of British beliefs. King James, even King Henry, back to King Henry, they all believed in the divine right of kings. Now that's just England. That's what they believed in. And so what that meant is that the king was chosen by God, and that the king didn't have to answer to anybody or any man on earth, only to God. So basically the king could do whatever he wanted to do. And that was their belief. So that's for you young people who ask for some more history. So now you can understand why a King James Bible exists, why a British politician's version of a holy book exists. It was all through England's or British politics. Now, that was just one of the things, just a part of history that helped me reach my conclusion of all that I had studied. But there's a whole lot more to it. There's a whole lot more to what I just told you. But there are a whole lot of other factors too. But my conclusion was this: that it's all man-made. I mean, history bears it out. It's all man-made. And when you look at it, it's really made by men in government. It's made by governments. This is what history says. I'm just narrating history. I'm telling you what history says. So, and so for me, like I said, from history, I could plainly see that it was all man-made. Now, this was 1998 when I came to that conclusion. And then the next question for me was this: what to do, or what to do next. And of course, by now, you should know that I never gained a belief in a God or in Jesus. Actually, I think by the time I got 21, it was probably just too late to indoctrinate me. But I had never had a belief in a God or Jesus anyway, so that was normal for me. So, I mean, it wasn't like I lost anything. When I went through all the studying, I just realized, oh, all right, so it's all man-made. I've studied the history, so that's the conclusion that I came to. But now, we're going to end this video. When I come back in the next video, I'm going to share with you how I was able to go from 1998 all the way up to 2025. And just to let you know, I was actually going to excommunicate the church from my life in the year 2000. But I didn't. And I'll give you all the reasons why in the next video. So until next time, y'all take care.